So picture this. You're at a wedding. You're watching your friends. They're making this huge, lifelong promise. And look, it's a happy day, right? But for a lot of people, something a little darker can creep in. A question about what that promise really truly costs. Today, we're going to dig into why, according to our source material, more men are choosing to stay single, and importantly, not because they failed to find someone, but as a deliberate, conscious choice.
That feeling right there, that little seed of doubt, that's our starting point. And you know who our guide is going to be for this whole thing? The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. The argument is that he, maybe more than anyone, would get the deep-down reasons behind what's happening today.
Now, the first thing you've got to understand is that Nietzsche's whole take on this, it wasn't coming from a place of bitterness. The guy had chances for love, for marriage. His choice to stay single was a calculated move. It was about protecting the one thing he valued above all else, his sovereignty. For him, that meant having the final say over his own life, his own mind.
And that's the word right there, sovereignty. It's the absolute authority to steer your own ship, to make your own calls, to forge your own path. But according to the source, giving up even a little piece of that sovereignty comes with a very real, very tangible price tag. And it starts with something we can all understand, your wallet.
So what's the first cost of giving up that total control? Well, it's financial. The source material paints a pretty stark picture here, and it all kicks off with one really powerful statistic about what can happen when a relationship falls apart.
77%. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to our source, that's the average chunk of wealth a man loses in a divorce. That one statistic completely reframes marriage. It's not just an emotional contract anymore, it's a high-stakes financial venture.
And hey, even in the marriages that do last, the source points to this cascade of expenses that just keeps growing. It kicks off with the ring and the wedding, sure, but then it keeps going. The pressure for a certain kind of house, the right car, and just this general lifestyle inflation that can pull a man's focus away from building his own wealth to just, maintaining the lifestyle.
And that brings us to this critical fork in the road. On one path, you've got the potential for compounding wealth, investing in yourself, your mission, your future. And on the other, a life of multiplying expenses, all designed to maintain this shared life. Now, if you're thinking like Nietzsche, whose whole philosophy revolved around the will to power, well, that power needs resources. It needs fuel to create and to overcome. So this choice, it's absolutely fundamental.
But it goes so much deeper than just money. I mean, way deeper. Beyond the financial hit, the source claims there's an internal cost, a kind of war for the self. It's an emotional, psychological struggle that can play out inside a modern relationship.
This quote is so important because it completely flips the script on being alone. It's not presented as loneliness, which is a feeling of lack. No, this is solitude, a state of peace, of clarity. It's freedom from the constant negotiation, the emotional drain that relationships can sometimes demand.
This maps out what the source calls the death of the individual. And it's not some big, sudden event. It's a slow burn, a gradual chipping away. As you can see, it starts with little things, right? Your hobbies are questioned. Maybe they're seen as silly or a waste of time. Then it moves on to the bigger stuff. Your core goals in life, they become a negotiation. And before you know it, the argument goes, you're left with this compromised version of who you were, a version built for keeping the peace instead of being authentic.
This seems like a really good place to just pause for a second. The source brings up a super personal idea here about compromise. So we're curious. What part of yourself, if any, have you felt you had to trade away or negotiate for our relationship? We'd genuinely be interested to read your thoughts on this in the comments.
Okay, let's tie all of this together with Nietzsche's big idea. The source uses his concepts of master and slave morality as the final lens to look at this whole life choice. This is where the decision stops being just practical and becomes truly philosophical. So here's how the source breaks it down. Master morality is all about creating your own values. You find validation from inside yourself. You become your own source of strength. On the flip side, you have slave morality, which is defined by looking outside yourself for validation. It's about needing someone else to complete you, about having your life's purpose handed to you by someone else. From this viewpoint, choosing to stay single is a full-throated embrace of master morality. And this brings us right to the ultimate fear, the one society loves to use to keep people on the traditional path, the fear of dying alone. This quote just confronts that fear head-on. It suggests something far worse, a much darker possibility.
That being trapped in the wrong relationship is a lonelier, more terrifying fate than true solitude ever could be.
So we're going to end on this final, really provocative question from the source material, because it reframes the whole conversation. The choice isn't about finding your missing half. It's about whether you will become so whole, so complete on your own terms that you don't need a missing half. It's a choice between two totally different ways of living, of finding meaning, and of understanding yourself.
This deep dive was brought to you by Mindscope Philosophy, where we love getting into these kinds of complex, challenging ideas.
Hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, if you like exploring uncomfortable truths and big questions, then you should definitely subscribe for more explainers just like this one. We've got a lot more to cover.